that 4-3-3 formation, the player to keep your eye on today is Taylor Huff. She leads on the season with 8 goals and 5 assists. She's extremely dynamic and can flip teams on their heads when given space. And as we look at the Virginia Tech lineup, you can see that they're going to go in their classic 4-4-2 formation. Natalie Mitchell is going to be key. Can she keep pace with Taylor Huff, as well as Ella Pulkowski in the back line? This is going to be an exciting matchup between these two teams, the battle of the midfields.
And you could not ask for better weather. 73 degrees, nice crowd on hand as well here from Thompson Field. I think this is one that the Tech fans have had circled on their calendars when it came out this year. Florida State coming into town.
This is going to be an exciting match. And we talked about this is the first time that Virginia Tech has played a ranked opponent this season. Florida State comes in at that number 6. This is huge. 3 points on the table for ACC, but also in terms of RPI. Should Virginia Tech be able to take down Florida State today, that's going to help that RPI ranking.
Our referee is Mike Stutt. He has blown his whistle, and we are underway. Florida State looking to respond after losing for the first time since the 2022 season. Virginia Tech playing its first ranked opponent of the year. Hokies Seminoles underway, and we're glad to have you on your Sunday afternoon. Hokies with possession early, and it's Rosenbaum. Something that Coach Chugger Adair told us, and you mentioned in the open, Tori, the final pass, connecting in the final third, going to be so important for the Hokies if they want to come out with a result today.
When you've got a team such as Florida so sound from the back line through the front, you're going to have slim opportunities in the attack. So when you get those moments, you're going to have to be really good. Your moments might come in 1v1 breakaways. They could also be in terms of corner kicks or set pieces. You have to be able to execute them.
Here's an early opportunity. Allie George, the senior out of Louisville. And cleared away.
And what's interesting right now, when you're looking at the teams right now, you can see all the maroon jerseys that are back defensively. And that was one of the things in speaking with Coach Penske that he wanted to see his team do better of, is their ability to defend as an entire team. They have a habit of pushing players into the attack and relying heavily on their 2 center backs to kind of do the brunt of the work. They saw that that was an issue against Wake Forest, so they're trying to make that adjustment this afternoon.
Another thing, going back to our conversation with Coach Adair, mentioning when you're going up against this Florida State team, possession going to be important, not just to create opportunities on the offensive side, but also to help its defense in turn.
Absolutely. This is a team, Florida State loves to pin defenses back. They apply a lot of pressure. And being able to maintain possession of the ball, Virginia Tech is able to take care of the ball and maintain possession. It takes that pressure off of the back line for Virginia Tech.
Mitchell almost got a look in the box. And there are some quick passes, nothing there, and it's Jimenez. And the Noles, who have possession. So many options for Florida State. And a team that could hurt you in so many different ways.
I think the key for this Hokies team is just to believe that they have the talent to play against Florida State.
Dudley. Nice combination pass in the Hokies back line, able to hustle and clear away a dangerous moment for now.
And that's outstanding defense. You can see both players just communicating, doubling back, making sure that there's nothing bouncing inside of the box.
Here is Huff. What an outstanding start to her senior year. Crosses in. Skyers there defensively for Virginia Tech. Seminoles knocking on the door. Tech looking for the offsides flag. Not there. And that's booted out of harm's way by Allie Lewis.
And that's tough because Jordan Dudley was running open inside of the box on that service by Taylor Huff, and that's what Taylor Huff's able to do. She's able to swing those balls in. She can thread it into space, and obviously her target is going to be Jordan Dudley. It's going to be extremely key for this Virginia Tech defense to not lose sight of their players. Games like this are won in margins, whether it's a half-inch defending on the inside of your player or a player outstretching their leg to push it into the back of the net. You got to stay with your players defensively. I will say, I think one of the things that Florida State struggled with against Wake Forest was the physicality of that game. Wake Forest came out and committed roughly 17 fouls against Florida State. That was extremely disruptive to this Florida State team. This Seminoles team likes to possess, and it broke that rhythm. Virginia Tech, we know, is a physical team, and I think if I'm Coach Adair, that's one of the messages in the locker room is like, hey, listen, let's not go out trying to take people's legs out, but at the same time, let's keep being physical and make that a part of our identity.
And there you see the best coach in the history of Tech women's soccer, Chugger Adair, who has done remarkable things with this program, including taking Tech to the 2013 College Cup, one of the best teams in the history of Tech athletics. Hokies ended up falling to Florida State, and there's a deflection from his defense as Tech looks to turn defense into offense. Mitchell trying to chase that down, unable to do so, and there's Todd who clears it away.
I think that was a nice look by Virginia Tech. Nice build-up, the way that they were able to hold the ball and get midfielders into the attack in that wide space. That's where their space is going to be for this Virginia Tech to create.
What a senior year Allie George is having. And the Hokies offside.
I think for now it's just a matter of making sure that Virginia Tech has all their marks. And this is a team, we asked Coach Chugger, do you like to do high press? He said Sunday games are always tough in general to do that type of high press. But in watching the film against Wake Forest did press against Florida State, and it caused some turnovers. So that is part of what they're looking to do is kind of press, but just picking and choosing their moments. They're not sure they can press a full 90 minutes, just given the weight of their legs, the recovery. They traveled to Miami. They're coming back.
That's one of the longer road trips you can have in the ACC for Virginia Tech. A scoreless draw against the Canes, a much improved Miami squad on Thursday. As much as Virginia Tech wants to be physical, on the other side, Florida State, a team that is so comfortable in possession.
And I think that's what made the game against Wake Forest so disruptive, and they weren't able to get in a rhythm. And so you kind of, when you're making mistakes or you're consistently getting fouled, some players can handle that better than others. Other people might lose their cool, and we saw that a little bit against Wake Forest. Some of the Seminoles players just weren't able to manage or weather that physicality. They're used to a more sophisticated game. But I think Wake Forest executed their game plan phenomenally.
As Coach Penske did a great job at Maryland, then Tennessee, now Florida State. Here is Seminoles in transition.
And look at the transition for Virginia Tech, the numbers that they're able to get back. And just how quickly they are. That's going to be key as this match continues to progress, because Florida State is a team that likes to switch the point of attack.
Skyers with the left foot able to clear it. Huff unable to get a touch. Here's Beckman. Pelkowski so physical on both ends of the pitch. Nice stop there for Tech.
And Pelkowski is a player that's had to step up, kind of playing in that more defensive six holding role in the absence of Urin, who sustained an injury at Boston College. But Pelkowski's been phenomenal, just being able to hold that defense, that back line down, and then her distribution out of that possession is that position is really key as well for this Virginia Tech team.
Ina Warren, someone who's been part of so many great Tech teams over the course of her career, stepping up and starting 2 NCAA tournament matches back in 2021. A player who could defend, who could get forward. What a great ball slotted through in the midfield. Suarez, the freshman, out wide. There's contact just outside the box, and Mike Studd, our referee, all over it.
And this is a tough spot for Virginia Tech Hokies to find themselves this early on into the game. What's really going to be important is how quickly they can pick up the players. And for Lauren Hargreaves, it's being able to hang on to the ball as it's played into you. You can take another look. It's just the push from behind for Allie George. And those are the kinds of mistakes you cannot afford to make in a game such as this.
Seminoles looking to respond after that loss on Thursday. Early opportunity on the road. Huff, a whistle, and we're going the other way.
Virginia Tech handled themselves with a lot of composure. You saw 2 Florida State players injecting themselves into the wall, a little bit of pushing going on inside of there. Not what leads to the ball going in the other direction.
Just over 12 minutes in. Glad to have you on your Sunday afternoon. Evan Hughes, Tori Watson, our outstanding ACC Network crew on hand from Thompson Field. And Eden Skyers, who has been fantastic defensively this year, trying to disrupt in the midfield. But Florida State gets it back, and now Pelkowski comes away with it. Quickly plays it out wide for Weir. The sophomore from Ackworth, Georgia. And no one home on the cross.
And that was a beautiful service. Good look by Weir. That's where Virginia Tech has to do a better job of getting numbers into the attack. Their transition from that defensive shape into offense, getting in their attacking third and making sure they have numbers inside that box.
Tori, what is it about Florida State that makes them so good in their ability to flip the field of play as often and successfully as they do?
First of all, it's just the caliber of players. The athletes say they were cute. They're extremely physical, but they're fit. And that isn't something that this coaching staff has to worry about or put time into during preseason, because their players have that commitment. They come in already fit, so they're able to immediately get on the tactics and the technical. The other thing is that every single one of those players out on the field can take players on 1v1, and that is a very unique situation. I mean, their center backs are just as good and skilled at their feet at beating players 1v1 as their front runners, Jordan Dudley, Soleil Washington, Taylor Suarez. I mean, all of them are absolutely phenomenal. You don't see that very often, and that's what makes this team so difficult to defend against.
Hokies have had some opportunities here early. Allie Lewis connects with Kylie Marshall. That's well read. Intercepted in the midfield by Huff. 8 goals on the year, weaving her way through traffic, got a look. And the Hokies able to swarm And a foul against Florida State. How about the recovery from Tech's back line?
And that was just fantastic defending. I mean, Taylor Huff on the dribble is extremely dangerous. She's able to weave through people. She has 8 goals on the year, 5 assists. She's extremely threatening in the attack. Fantastic defense, able to stand her up. That's just phenomenal defending there by Lewis. And then the clearance by Polkowski is even better. High, far, and wide. That's what you want. That way they can't get the second bound rebound and play in.
A throw in for Florida State. Here is Huff. Quick pass, Jimenez. Great cutback from Simmons. You can just see the talent on this Florida State team. They're so fun to watch.
They have a high soccer IQ, and they are very disciplined in their shape. They know when to expand, when to contract, as well as when to go fast, when to slow the game down. They recognize, they're very good at recognizing the opportunities for that counterattack, getting in and behind. But I think Virginia Tech's doing a really good job at this point in time. They've been able to create a few opportunities. I do think that they need to connect the ball a little bit through the middle, have a little bit more confidence in themselves to maintain possession in those areas. And then obviously not lose sight of Dudley. She's been floating around. She is the main target on the crosses for Florida State.
So many names you need to know on this Florida State team. Jordan Dudley being one of them that soccer fans around the country are well aware of. The NCAA tournament most outstanding player from a year ago. This FSU team had a lot of players away for the last month competing at the U20 World Cup. And there you see, even though they weren't at full strength, look at those numbers. Those are exceptional.
I think especially when you look, 23.7 shots a game. That's an extreme amount for any team to have to. It's tough, and when you get pinned down and you have a team that's just constantly pounding on you, it's inevitable. You're going to break at some point. But I would like to point out that the Hokies have done a fantastic job. They've had 7 shutouts this season, so they're no stranger to having a stingy defense.
Hargrove off her line won't matter. Florida State offsides. Hokies with tempo in the midfield. George got knocked down, draws the foul. And Brian Penske is not thrilled, and a card being issued from Mike Studd, our referee, who went sprinting over to the head coach of the Seminoles.
I'm not sure why he didn't see that call. I mean, Jordan Dudley definitely came charging on Allie George, was a little bit extremely physical.
One of the themes we've been talking about in the lead up of this broadcast, Tori, physicality. And with that comes energy and intensity. We've got it through the first 15 minutes here, the first half.
We definitely do. And I think Sunday games always have a level of grittiness to them just because your legs are heavy. You're tired from traveling. Even if you're the home team, it's the second game on the weekend. It's always tough. And so it is a level, it is more mental. Sunday games are more of a mental match than they are tactics or tacticals or technical. And I think for that reason, we do see the Sunday matches are a little bit more physical. But I think Virginia Tech is doing a phenomenal job of mashing the energy that Florida State is putting out on the field.
Something Coach Penske told us in our coaches call, they were excited to play a team like Virginia Tech that's physical like Wake Forest, so that they could have a chance to respond and correct the mistakes that were made on Thursday night in Winston-Salem.
Yeah, and I think that's really important because obviously if coaches around the league are watching that game, watching, you know, how was Florida State so disrupted? It's one thing to lose a game 2-1, 1-0, but when you lose a game 4-1, that's significant. And especially, you know, I think a lot of viewers at home are watching that match. No surprise, Florida State came out, second half, scored a goal, 15 seconds. Everyone kind of thought to themselves, okay, this is the Florida State team we're used to seeing. but then they went flat after that. And I think a lot of it does have to do with the fact that Wake Forest did play them so technically, but also they're just a really good team. And they kept staying after them.
There you see fouls per game. Wake #1, Virginia Tech #3.
And I don't think that's something you shy away from. I mean, that's part of your identity. It's part of what makes you who you are. I think you lean into that, especially games like today against FSU, when you know you have an opponent who struggled with that level of physicality.
Weir makes the turn. And that connecting pass, well read.
You can see, though, how quickly, just watching on your screens, how compact Florida State was, the number of maroon jerseys that were all tight, and then as soon as they win possession, how quickly they expand. It's almost like an accordion. As soon as they gain possession and they're on offense, the game breathes, it opens up wide, and they're quickly in those positions. And if they move the ball quickly and switch the point of attack, that's where they expose teams.
Tori, that's what makes you so good, using an accordion reference. That's phenomenal right there. Just over 25 minutes, opening half. Jimenez shielding off a defender, and a foul on Ava Orengo, the sophomore.
And I think for Virginia Tech right now, the fouls we're seeing them commit against Florida State are on the back. And so that is an indicator that they're not in the good defensive position. You want to start with your players in front of you. And so when you have the fouls that are coming in from behind, that lets you know that you weren't in the correct defensive position to start with. I'm okay with some of these fouls, especially if it's slowing down the play, but you have to be aware of when you're putting your team at risk. You know, the closer you get to the box, the more likely a team is to capitalize on. But sometimes it's okay to make these fouls and slow it down and allow your team to get numbers back.
Taylor Huff, one of the most dynamic players in the country, played short. Seminoles with a touch. And once again, a whistle and a foul against Florida State. Couple of good looks in this first half for FSU in the box, but Virginia Tech has defended well collectively to respond. And a yellow card on top of it.
And they've certainly gotten the scouting report that Dudley is that go-to player. She's extremely composed inside the box. She knows how to bring it down at her feet, as we just saw. But you saw the Virginia Tech players collapse around her. And that's exactly what has to happen, because she's going to try to play other people into the game. You can see the three players, and Eden Skyers, I just want to point out the way that Eden Skyers, she shifted her position to the inside, and that's great awareness because Jimenez was right behind her. And should she been able to get that pass off, Jimenez could have put it on frame.
And just as Hargrove booted that away, our referee Mike Stutt gonna go maybe take another look at that sequence.
And I think the question here, maybe the challenge is coming from the Florida State side, is was there a foul committed inside the box? Did the foul occur against the Virginia Tech players? Was the player taken down in the box versus Virginia Tech? You know, it's interesting as a player having this video review process available. You know, during my playing days, it wasn't something that was there, but I definitely think in high-stake moments such as this, it's nice to be able to review and see what really happened. Although as a player, the emotions that come and go, it's hard to kind of keep steady and keep your head in the game.
And looks like they were looking at the clock, and that is going to be adjusted, is what information we're receiving. And they're going to go to 24-26. So they put about roughly 30 seconds back on the clock. And we're back underway. Rosenbaum connects with Weir. And look at the defensive pressure from Florida State, creating a turnover in the midfield. And Tori, you said it, the midfield, is going to win or lose today's match. And here's Virginia Tech, a through ball forward. Too far in front of Mitchell, but a throw-in.
And fantastic job by Arango just to get the read on that, being able to step in. And that's where collectively defending is so important. First person on the ball, pressure. Second person is cover. They're able to pick those passes off. Well done, well executed by Virginia Tech.
Tori, what have you liked most about what you've seen from Virginia Tech and how they've executed their game plan here in the first half?
I think they've found themselves a few times under pressure, but it's just the composure. You don't see them playing panic ball. I would like to see them clean it up just a little bit. I think the movement off the ball has to happen faster. The first option is presenting itself, but the second option needs to be happening faster.
Mitchell. And excellent defending from Huff. That ball's still dangerous. And Florida State, so good when they counter.
And again, you could just see as Soleil Washington's dribbling up, just the space that Jordan Dudley is creating. You saw her kind of expand, making her run against the sideline, widening up. They're playing the full width of the field. And when that happens, it pulls the Virginia Tech defender out of position.
Huff with a bending ball. Still dangerous. And that's a foul on D'Amelio.
And good defending by D'Amelio, but again, it's just recognizing the push on the back. It's the arms on the backs. If they can come in with their side angle, more of like a toe poke away versus arms on the back, it's going to put Virginia Tech in a better position. I will say Taylor Huff is phenomenal in terms of being able to execute set pieces, set plays. Her timing of when she hangs the ball and just the positioning of them, bending them into the run of her teammates is absolutely exceptional.
A second-team All-American from a year ago. A direct free kick taken. A challenge with Skyers. That's a foul on one of the most important defenders Virginia Tech has, Eden Skyers.
And I like that. That's tough defending by Eden Skyers. I feel like she that was just unfortunate. I'm not sure that would have been a foul had Jimenez not fallen on the ground. I mean, I think to me it looked like two players coming into a 50-50 ball at the same time. Just one wasn't as steady on their feet.
Taylor Huff, fifth nationally in points per game. Bending ball back post, and that's over the crossbar for a goal kick.
And again, I think Virginia Tech just got lucky on that one. It's so important that they stay with their runners all the way through to the very end. Games like this, it just takes one person to toe poke the ball in. You can see it coming across. Hargroves covering that front post, but you can see the runner on the back post coming in, and she was unmarked. So Virginia Tech's going to have to be careful about runners in the box on set pieces.
Seminoles comfortable in possession. Arango forcing a takeaway. There was contact as she falls. Suarez defended by Skyers. Palkowski in the right spot.
And that was fantastic defending by Eden Skyers. I stand by comments I've made in the past about her. She's one of the most solid 1v1 defenders in the conference. Just her patience over the ball. You see other players want to stab at it. She's so patient. She gets low to the ground. She shows one side. She's been absolutely phenomenal for this Virginia Tech Hokies team.
Transferred in from Jacksonville. Late addition last year, just before the 23 season started. Such high praise from her coaches, her teammates. And here's our first corner of the afternoon. Huff to take it. Still dangerous. Hargrove locating and pulls it down.
And that's a big-time save for Hargrove. She's been outstanding between the pipes for this Virginia Tech team, and that's exactly what they needed. They need her to be able to jump up and make some of those big-time saves.
And the clock will stop. An injured Hokie, and that is one of the toughest players you'll find around the country, Emma Pelkowski, who has logged over 5,000 minutes in her Tech career.
That's definitely not a player that you want to see on the ground at the moment. I mean, she's carrying double duties as we hit on the open, just in terms of that playing that more defensive role in absence of Aino Vuerno. She's done an absolutely fantastic job.
Coach Chugger Adair, so high in his praise for her. He's called her a workhorse. She has the ability to disrupt other teams' attack. Even as mentioned before to me that, you know, Virginia Tech, the lunch pail mentality so important from the football side. She kind of embodies that. You're on her feet.
Yeah, it's hard to say what happened, but to me, just knowing how much pushing goes around inside that box, especially when you're jumping up and down, it's likely that she probably got a Charlie horse in her arm. Elbows are always flying inside the box, especially when you're jumping up in the air, but it's good to see her on her feet. Obviously, since play was stopped, she has to step off the field. She can re-enter. She's such an outstanding player. Brings a lot of energy to this Hokies team.
Both teams adjusting right now. Also got a chance to huddle around their respective coaching staffs too. It's been physical, at times a little chippy. Defending national champions, a Virginia Tech team in a tie for third in the ACC in points. And here's Tech pressuring. Not a ton of action thus far for Addie Todd in goal. Florida State building into the attacking third with space. Suarez gives it back. Beckman, a couple of quick touch passes. And off the deflection, Weir gets knocked down, no whistle.
I'm a little surprised that there wasn't a call there, especially all the other fouls that have been called in this game. There was no advantage there.
D'Amelio has it taken away by Jimenez. Combination play for Suarez, and there's Skyers with an excellent slide tackle.
Again, just 1v1, amazing defending on display here. Sky is extremely patient, but understands how much of a threat a service could be. That's a clean tackle through and through, timed it absolutely perfectly. And I will say the consistency at which she plays at is such a tremendous value to this Georgia Tech back line. I mean, just being able to rely on her game in and game out. She is so thorough in her play. You always know what you're going to get from her.
Hokies are going to get it back as the flag went up. A couple of substitutions on both sides, and for Virginia Tech, Taylor Price checked in. Of course, coming off that injury from last year, a hat trick a couple of weeks back against Louisville, really starting to play at a high level. Which is great to see coming off that injury, as Pelkowski back on the field as well. And there's an easy whistle, a bump from behind from Rihanna Hudson. Tori, Virginia Tech's had possession but that final pass in the attacking third, we've really yet to see.
I think the final pass, but also defensively, they're doing a good job of pressuring their back line, Florida State's back line, and they're directing play. It's the second pass out. Florida State's being able to break their midfield line. So I think that's one of the adjustments that I would talk to them about at halftime is just, if we're going to press, we've got to make sure that we aren't giving them any release points. And right now, Florida State's doing a really good job of solving that problem. They're skipping that first line, and they're connecting with their outside wingers.
And Ron Ely comes on for Coach Penske's team. Loved getting to talk with him about her. Fifth-year defender, two-time national champion, four-time College Cup participant. He actually compared her to Christian Laettner from a resume perspective, and that is high praise.
Yeah, absolutely. She is a phenomenal player, and just the experience that she brings to this team and to this coaching staff. I mean, Coach Penske said she's teaching us about the program traditions and histories. She's been a part of all the national championships, ACC championships, so to have that kind of veteran leadership on the field is extremely valuable.
And there you see BioBlast, Ron Ely, flag bearer. How cool is that at the Men's World Cup?
You talk about a player that has a lot of spunk, pizzazz, and energy. That's Ron Ely. And I think this substitution is pivotal in Florida State's game plan, just in terms of being able to elevate the game and the players around her. Same thing for Virginia Tech. We've seen them make some substitutions too. I think it's important that both of these teams have a strong final push before the half.
Simmons finds Puerta. Only 2 shots in this first half, both by Florida State. And that rolled over the touchline. Tech's going to get a throw in. Final 15, 10 minutes before the first half ends. It can certainly change the momentum going into the break.
And this is exactly what Virginia Tech needs at this moment. They're a team that leads in the nation in terms of corner kicks, and this is a great opportunity for them. Again, it's about capitalizing on your moments, making sure you have players in the box, causing as much confusion as possible for this Florida State defense.
First corner of the game for Virginia Tech. Opportunity for the Hokies. Nelson with the right foot, that's deflected. And a strong clearance. Pelkowski will track that down. You mentioned Virginia Tech being near the top in the country in corner kicks per game. Couldn't capitalize there, and here's Florida State and Jordan Dudley, who got knocked down, no doubt about that. And a foul against Virginia Tech. Clock will stop. And a yellow card shown.
I think for Virginia Tech, I mean, Florida State, they have a lot of streaks. We'll take another look at that foul. You just see just clipped. I do feel like there's a little bit of theatrics involved, in my opinion, on that. I don't think there was enough of contact there for her to fall that much, but.
Third yellow card of the first half. The back post, that's over the head of Riley. Goal kick coming for Hargrove.
But in terms of stats, there's a lot of storylines to follow for Florida State. One of the streaks is they have not lost a game that they've led at halftime since September 3rd of 2010. So if I'm Virginia Tech, don't let them score first half.
It is an incredible stat. Since September 3rd, 2010, if Florida State is leading at halftime, 161 wins, no losses, 3 draws. Huff can change a game, connects with EY. Huff, nobody home.
And I think Virginia Tech's doing a really good job of containing Florida State. Right now, for me, Florida State is almost trying to do too much. Every time they have the ball at their feet, they're taking 3, 4, 5 dribbles, and you're not seeing players move as much. I think if they let the ball do the work, it'll kind of start creating some open pockets for them to play the ball in, through, and behind Virginia Tech. But I think Virginia Tech's doing a great job. They're staying linked up with their players. They're putting a lot of pressure in the middle of the field. They're making it difficult for Florida State.
Really good hustle from Taylor Price. Does get whistled for the foul.
And that's one thing that Coach Chugger Adair has prided his team on, is defense as a collective, playing defense collectively as our team. It starts up top. If you can win the ball higher up on the field, it's going to put you in a better position offensively.
Mitchell wins possession back. Look at that pressure on the other end from Dudley. Don't think we've talked enough about Florida State's defense. 6 shutouts through 10 matches on the year for the Seminoles. And last year, en route to a national title, while the offense was so good, 5-1 win against Stanford, the defense was exceptional as well.
Yes, and I think a lot of times Heather Gilchrist and Sophia Wynn, they get overlooked back there, but as we shared, Coach Penske, he said, we put so many numbers into the attack. They often play their backs inverted, so they are part of the attack, and they rely heavily upon Heather Gilchrist and Sophia Wynn to anchor down that back line.
Mitchell the cross, and there's Todd with her first real action of the first half, making the stop.
And that was a wonderful cross inside of the 6. I would like to see Virginia Tech sneak up on that a little bit more, contest the goalkeeper. You can see the service that comes across from Mitchell just on top of the 6, and you can see the Virginia Tech players there, but just hesitant, on not sure of where the ball's going to go. I think the timing of those runs have to be a little bit better inside of the box.
Lots of subs on both sides. That includes, as you see on your screen, Laura Dantes coming on, the freshman who was a quarterfinalist with Brazil in the U20 Women's World Cup. A lot of Florida State players and their best getting to compete in that tournament. And I think it's worth bringing up, this is really only the 3rd match of the year for Florida State in which they have their entire roster here together, not about to leave for a big tournament.
And that's hard on any team, any program. Florida State leads in the country next to Stanford, I believe, in terms of players that were represented. They had 6 players that were participating in that U20 World Cup. And it's hard because in their absence, you have other players that are shouldering the weight.
As Hargrove makes the stop.
Such as Taylor Huff. She was one of those players that really kind of had to help carry the team on her back. You can see these are all the players that participated for Florida State. But when you talk about what that does to your team in terms of chemistry, I mean, not only are there huge vacancies to fill and big personalities, but also, you've got other younger players that are stepping up, being able to contribute minutes. And now all of a sudden these players are returning, and where do they fit into the puzzle? And how do you manage that expectation? And what does that do to your team chemistry?
Nearly that final connecting pass there for Virginia Tech. And Florida State has numbers here if they want to push. Dantes plays it back. Will give and go for, I don't think she fully recognized it, and that's well read defensively by Valente. And again, just to make sure, emphasizing that point, the roster was here to start the season. Then the U20 World Cup was in September, so those players left. To your point, new players stepped up, new minutes, new roles, and now they're coming back and trying to get back and build that chemistry in the middle of being in the best soccer conference in the entire country.
And they were gone for roughly 4 weeks. I mean, that's a significant amount of time when it comes to when you're talking about women's collegiate soccer. I mean, they'd already had such a compressed schedule. They missed the tail end of non-conference. They've missed half of conference matchups. But then it's also, I think there's a lot of people have the impression of, oh, they must be training so much or at such a high level if they're with their national teams. But the reality is they're resting more than they're actually playing. And talking to Coach Penske, he's like, yeah, we've got the GPS trackers, and it's not consistent across the board, especially compared to the kids that are here on our campus training. So there's a lot of that in terms of just fatigue, physicality, are they still in shape? But even more so, it's the emotional aspect of it. And that was one thing that Coach Penske really hit on.
Taylor Lewin has it taken away. Great recovery defense from the Noles. That rolled over the touchline. And Tech will have a throw-in with just over 5 minutes left in this opening half.
Eden Skyers isn't going to let that go. You kidding me? She's like, nope, that's my ball. You can see just the fatigue starting to set in on both teams at this moment. There's a lot at stake. Florida State's trying to kind of prove that they are one of the best teams in the country after facing such a devastating loss to Wake Forest 4-1. And for Virginia Tech, they're kind of trying to capitalize on this opportunity and prove that they are one of the best teams in the ACC and in the country.
A 32-match unbeaten streak dating back to 2022 snapped on Thursday against number 4 Wake Forest. And a push, I believe, during that sequence. Foul on Florida State. You look at fouls, 8 on Virginia Tech, 5 on Florida State. But at times it's felt like it's been fairly balanced in the first 45.
I think Virginia Tech seems as though they're a little bit more used to having the fouls be a part of their game, so it's not nearly as disruptive.
Right-footed strike high above the crossbar from de Guzman.
They seem as if they're taking the fouls in stride. You see a player get fouled, they hit the ground, they pop right back up. Whereas Florida State, we're seeing them being a little bit more dramatic about getting fouled, and I don't mean that negatively, just calling it what it is. A player gets tripped up, they lay on the ground for a minute, they get to their feet, and you can tell that it's affecting their composure over the ball instead of just accepting, hey, this is part of the game.
Big takeaway as Tech has a push just on the corner of that box. Play on. It was Maltese who came away with the takeaway.
I think Virginia Tech's been really effective in their style of play today. A couple of things as I'm looking to going into the half that I'd like to see cleaned up or better. Number one, can we play into our forwards' feet more, and can they hold the ball? Can they hold the ball up? Right now, Florida State's doing a fantastic job of making the reads and stepping in. Can we get our forwards sitting down lower, making themselves bigger and holding the ball? Doing that will allow us to link up our midfield. We can now get players into the attack, evolving, getting them in numbers. We've got to have numbers in the attack in order to unbalance Florida State's defense. Defensively, it's just talking together a little bit more, making sure that they're not able to skip lines. Right now, Florida State's breaking that first line, and they're finding the second player open in the midfield. Just need to get a little bit cleaner on that.
Lewin to de Guzman. That's a clean tackle there. Excellent defense. Far corner of the pitch. And the clock's going to stop as we see a card shown to an assistant, it appears, or a member of the Florida State bench from our referee, Mike Stutt. That's the second yellow card the FSU bench has received in the first half.
You can tell they're not comfortable with the physical play. I mean, that resulted as of, Ronnie Ui battling there in the corner. Obviously, they felt like a foul should have been called, but you don't see Coach Chugger Adair or his staff up on their feet.
Skyers, look at that shield, but a foul called, and The Tech fans disagree. And an injured Florida State player.
I love the sportsmanship that Eden Skyers has right now. I mean, she's checking to see if the player's hurt. I think that's exceptional sportsmanship. But just tough defending. I mean, from my viewpoint, it looked like Eden Skyers was just kind of keeping the player on her back. There is a little bit of pushing, but you also see the shirt pulling from Florida State. And Eden Skyers just doing everything she can to shield. I think in that process, you can intentional. That's just more of her arm is in the movement of running. But fantastic job by our camera crew and our production to give us that replay. But tough defending by Eden Skyers.
Tori, from a defensive standpoint, is it fair to say Virginia Tech has done what they've wanted to do in the first half?
I think so. Absolutely. To be able to go into the half 0-0 is a good thing. It's just a matter of how can we be better? Because I think this Virginia Tech team can be better in moments. It's just, you know, having confidence in our ability to possess in the final third, and then our decision making has to happen faster. We have to see the plays faster and the movement.
Maltese finds Price.
It's important to note that that was advantage. The referee's playing advantage at that point, which was the right call. But he is bringing it back. So that's fantastic refereeing right there on the field.
It's been a busy first half for Mike Stutt. That is the 5th yellow card. 4 on Florida State, 1 on Virginia Tech.
And I think this is just really where Virginia Tech has to take their time and make this moment count. They have 1 minute and 11 seconds till half. This may be their last moment offensively before they go into the locker room. So just taking their time, making sure they get numbers in the box.
Freshman Taylor Lewin talking with senior Eden Skyers. Can Virginia Tech get on the board late in the first half? Direct ball, read beautifully. De Guzman, well high. And a goal kick for Florida State.
I'm not sure that was the intention to play a driven ball on the ground there. For me, I would have been looking to target Allie George. She's so fantastic in the air, so strong in the air. So I think that was a missed hit, missed opportunity for Virginia Tech.
The Seminoles and Addie Todd, the sophomore, content with taking some time.
I think if I'm Coach Penske and I'm going into the locker room, I'm talking to our team about just being able to be explosive when we win the ball, capitalizing on those counter attacks as much as we possibly can.
Still time, 20 seconds for Florida State near midfield. Lewis tracking, Tech with time, 12 seconds. Lewin hustling, back to Todd. Three shots for both sides in what was a very physical, defensive-minded first half. And we are scoreless at the break. The defending national champions and Virginia Tech at Thompson Field. And we are pleased to be joined by the head coach of the Hokies, Chugger Adair. Coach, how'd you like the way your team defended there in the first 45 minutes?
I thought we did a pretty solid job for sure. I think there were a couple dicey moments where we got into some situations early, but we recovered well. And, you know, fortunately, they didn't capitalize on those moments. But I think as the game went, we were able to frustrate them a little bit more. They struggled in the attacking third or getting into that space the last 15, 20 minutes of that half, which was good. And, you know, I was happy with that defending.
Coach, as you go into the second half, what are the tactical adjustments that you're hoping your team can make?
Well, I think first and foremost, what I think is we got to keep the ball a little bit more. I think we've won the ball a few times and we've really given away needlessly. I think we've got to keep it, get a little joy and love with the ball a little bit before we give it away or try to go, and then find moments where we can attack their back line. If we can get there quickly, I think we can test them a little bit, but finding those moments when to go and when to just keep it and take the air out of the game a little bit.
Coach, so appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
That's the head coach of the Hokies, Chugger Adair. His Hokies and the Seminoles scoreless at the break. We'll step aside when we come back. Tons of great coverage with our halftime report here on the ACC Network. Florida State and Virginia Tech. Scoreless through 45. Welcome back inside the broadcast booth. She's Tori Watson. I'm Evan Hughes. Tori, even though no goals in that first half, ton of exciting moments there between the Seminoles and the Hokies.
It's been a very competitive match between both of these teams, extremely physical. We knew Virginia Tech was going to come out and be physical. The question was, how was the Seminoles going to be able to handle it?
Well, for those just joining us, that physical play, really the story of the first half. It started early and continued through the first half.
And you can see just initially Virginia Tech caught out of position a couple of times, hands on the back. But we've seen a couple of cards fly. We've seen it both directions. Florida State's answered back on several occasions. Very physical play. But that's really been the story of this first half.
5 combined yellow cards and 16 combined fouls in the first half. And both teams are back on the pitch. What are you most looking forward to seeing here in the first 10-15 minutes? As we take a look, I'll get your thought on that. How about the first half stats? What jumps out at you most there, Tori?
I mean, you can see the shots are even. Florida State has 3, Virginia Tech 3, corners are even, and then the fouls. I mean, this has been a very even match. I mean, for me, as I'm looking at the second half, remembering how Florida State responded against Wake Forest, they scored within the first 15 seconds against Wake Forest. So this is a Florida State team that's going to come out flying, come at you hard. And so Virginia Tech, I'm just trying to make sure that we are organized defensively and can weather that storm.
And we're pleased to be joined by the head coach of the Seminoles, Brian Pensky. Coach, thanks for the time. What'd you make of the first 45 minutes?
Honestly, it was pretty much what we expected, right? Hot, physical, tough battle, right? They're a very good team. Their defensive organization is really high. The 4-4-2, obviously, it's a little bit of a different matchup for us, and so caused us some problems, but we still created some chances. We've just got to be a little bit better, our movement, earlier movement in the final third, whether that's a final ball or a little bit earlier movement, and hopefully a goal will come.
Coach, in the locker room, what was the tactical adjustments that you gave to your team?
Yeah, I think, you know, in our build-out, right, if we're getting some success at them in the wide area, especially because their diamond is so pinched, right? And we can just simply roll balls to our wide backs, right? And then roll it to a flared-out 10, right? You saw Huff there flaring out at the end there, or a flared-out winger, and try and get at them in a little bit of a 2v1 in the wide area. We don't need to overplay in the center part of the field because that's where they have their numbers.
Coach, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
All right, guys.
That's head coach Brian Pensky. And we are ready for second half action. Gorgeous day in Southwest Virginia. Florida State looking to respond. Their first loss in almost 700 days. Hokies searching for their first ranked win of 2024. What'd you make of Coach Pensky's comments there?
I think they're spot on just in terms of, you know, being able to find those pockets of space to play into against Virginia Tech. I wouldn't be surprised if they also look to play a little bit more direct. He talked about, you know, kind of bypassing that midfield. And I think you can do that by playing balls direct into the corners and setting their players up for some 1v1s in that capacity as well.
Hokies able to come away with a takeaway. Unable to connect on the through ball at midfield. Go back to Thursday for Florida State, the loss to number 4 Wake Forest. They came out second half, first 10 minutes, put up an early goal. They were very efficient out of the break.
This is a team that is just, you know, has a load of prolific goal scorers, very offensive minded. And I do expect Florida to put their foot on the gas in terms of just the amount of pressure. And I think wins like this, Allie George just being patient, holding good defensive shape, being able to intercept passes is going to be really important for Virginia Tech this second half. But even more so, it's the movement off the ball. You see Allie George win the ball. She's dribbling upfield, and she really doesn't have much movement.
Kind of going back to Coach Pensky's comments, talking about the 4-4-2 diamond shape that Virginia Tech is in. What is it about that formation that can make it difficult to potentially break down here as Huff Hard challenge, play on.
And that's just outstanding defense there by Virginia Tech. Well, you know, 4-4-2 versus the 4-3-3, you're outnumbered in the midfield, number one. So there's an extra player in the midfield. And then just, you know, just how they're able to apply additional pressure. So anytime the ball's going in the middle of the field, Georgia Tech's got the extra player to have more pressure on them. So they do have to look to play their wing backs, getting their defenders into the attack, finding Cameron Simmons wide.
Mimi Van Zinten, the throw in, and a good one. As Dudley tries to cut it back, play it through. Nice idea, but a goal kick.
I think Virginia Tech is doing a great job this first half, or this second half. You know, they're coming out, they're remaining composed. Again, I would like to see them hold the ball up more with their forwards' feet and try to get more play into the midfield. There's space in the wide areas for them as well.
Early pressure from Florida State.
You can just see how disciplined this Florida State team, as soon as they win the ball offensively, you see the players expanding wide. It opens up the field and creates more channels and seams for balls such as that to get threaded through.
Washington cuts it back, shot deflected by Hargrove. Second chance high from Taylor Huff.
And that was just a textbook build-up by Florida State. Phenomenal job being able to work the ball around. And Soleil Washington on the outside. You can see she freezes her defender, cuts inside. She's able to get that initial shot. And it's the second shot by Taylor Huff. It spins with the outside of her foot. Florida State continues to challenge her and test her, is to make sure that she keeps hold of the ball. Any ball that's battered around inside the box, inside the six, is a dangerous opportunity for Florida State to get the rebound on.
And that build up right there, that was the best scoring opportunity either team has had in the match so far today.
But it started with their patience and being able to swing the ball around the back.
Dudley challenged, goes down, a whistle, and a foul against Virginia Tech. Opportunity coming for Florida State.
And that's tough for Virginia Tech. They've been physical all game long. It's just a matter of being clean on your fouls. Dudley's been a little bit light on her feet. She's been a little shifty. So just kind of knowing how this game is going, you got to be especially clean defensively inside the 18.
Mike Stutt is going to go take a look. Big moment in this match.
I think the question here, if I'm the AR looking at this, is it a question of did she get tripped, did she get fouled, or did she just stumble over the ball? And in this instance, in this review, it does look, I will say, as an attacker, anytime you're inside the box and you get fouled, you are kind of taught to go down. So we mentioned in the open that these games are won and lost by margins, and it's moments of a foul being made or a corner kick or so forth and so on. You hate to see a game like this be decided on a penalty kick.
And it will be a penalty kick. They took a long look for the Seminoles on the road. And we've got some extracurricular build-up outside the box. Let's take one more zoomed-in look. The foot of George.
And the reason that makes this a ruled penalty kick is that George did not get ball whatsoever at all. Motions are running high for both teams. You can see this.
And it will be Jordan Dudley, the NCAA Tournament Most Outstanding Player a year ago. Chance to put the Seminoles on the board first on the road. It's through. Dudley converts on the penalty kick, and the defending national champions have the lead in Blacksburg.
There's ever been a time where there's pressure on you as a player, it's in that exact moment, and Jordan Dudley managed to have so much composure in that moment. Her team is coming off a devastating loss to Wake Forest 4-1. She's shouldering the responsibility of putting her team up in this ACC conference match, and she does it so eloquently. The place, the right decision. She dove the right direction, just narrowly missed it. But with placement like that, it's hard to come up with a save.
And again, we go back to what we were just talking about a moment ago, how Florida State came out at halftime against Wake Forest on Thursday and got that quick goal. Within 5 minutes, they find the first goal of the afternoon.
In soccer, we always talk about the big 5 moments, and anytime there's a stoppage in play or a team's been scored on or did the scoring, the next 5 minutes are the most critical in terms of getting yourself back in the game. And so I'm really looking forward to see how Virginia Tech responds over these next 5 minutes.
Dudley flips play. Excellent through ball. She's onside, and Hargrove stands tall and makes an excellent save. George creates the turnover. Nearly 2-0 Florida State, Tori.
And I will say Virginia Tech players kind of held up. They're expecting that offsides call, but as a defender, you have to keep playing until the whistle goes.
And Weir, contact from behind, a foul on Florida State. Let's go back to that build-up, the save from Hargrove.
You can see the ball just slipped in and behind Eden Skyer. She's hoping for the offsides, but the player in the center is keeping her there. The first block by Hargrove. I'll say this is a tough game to play in if you're a player, because the fouls have been a little bit inconsistent. It's been a very physical match, but anytime you get stuck in on a 50-50 challenge, there's a likely that the referee's going to assert a foul one way or the other. So it does make you a little bit tentative in terms of defending hard.
In the midfield. A good battle for possession all day today, both sides.
I think when Virginia Tech is able to pressure Florida State's back line, we've seen them make some mistakes. And the same thing can be said against their game with Wake Forest. And that's a perfect example. The pressure leads to the turnover for Virginia Tech.
Valente trying to find, there you see, that incredible stat there. 41 wins under Coach Penske in this kind of situation. Dudley, no look pass, connects with Huff. Through ball forward for Suarez, but Hargrove well off her line, read it well.
And Florida State being able to transition that quickly from defense to offense.
Meanwhile, Virginia Tech just a little too far in front, no problem for Addie Todd.
But I think Virginia Tech needs to keep doing that, being consistent in terms of capitalizing on those counterattack moments. Anytime Florida State attacks, they attack with a lot of numbers, and that leaves them vulnerable on the back line, creates opportunities for Virginia Tech to get in and behind.
Huff trying to shield off Pelkowski, does so, and has space. 8 goals on the year. Washington into the box, excellent recovery on the back end from Marshall and the Hokies.
And Taylor Huff is just so dynamic, so explosive, and so strong. I mean, she's a difficult player to push off the ball, but what makes her dangerous is her ability to thread the passes like she just did to Soleil Washington on the outside.
Not many corner kicks. This is just the 4th combined this afternoon. Left-footed strike, knocked down.
And having clearances that go past the 20 yards is extremely important. You can see that Florida State had players set up on top of the 18, kind of almost like bumpers. They're going to line the outside of the box. You got your players inside the box, and the purpose of that is anytime the ball bounces out, they can quickly redirect it on frame, putting them in another goal-scoring chance opportunity.
Jimenez to Suarez. Back to the senior. And still dangerous. Huff. Intercepted by Pelkowski, who got knocked down in the first half, had to check out momentarily. And she plays this forward for Weir. Has space. Gives it a go. And it's well wide.
And just an excellent look there by Pelkowski. She did a fantastic job reading it, intercepts it, recognizes that there's an opportunity to unbalance Florida State's backline, plays the ball in long. And Anna Weir, she's able to get the touch around her defender, but it's just having the confidence to put the ball away in those intense moments. Nice look, but again, this is kind of the storyline for Virginia Tech, being able to capitalize on those moments inside the box. Better decision-making.
Tori, how much of Virginia Tech, the intensity they've shown on the defensive side, how much will the defense have to lead to offensive opportunities here in the second half?
I think that's the most important part. I mean, you've got such a talented Florida State team. It's the defense that's going to lead to those offensive moments like we just saw. I mean, their ability to win the balls and quickly counterattack. It's what's going to keep them in this game. But we heard Penske talk about, as he came out of the half, being able to find those 10s in the high spaces and the wide spaces, being able to play people in. And they're doing a really good job of it. They're executing it. They certainly have taken the tactical points that Coach Penske presented to them and are putting it to work.
If you're just joining us, Jordan Dudley with a penalty kick early in the second half. It has been a physical afternoon. In over 30 minutes. As the regular season winding down, implications on the line in terms of the table. There's Skyers getting involved at midfield. She slips, tries to win possession back and does. How about the job Eden Skyers has done today?
She's such a solid defender in the back. And again, just the consistency that she brings every time she's out on the field. You know she's going to win her 1v1 battles. And what I like about her is her ability to take care of the ball after she dispossesses her opponent.
George. Now, one thing Florida State's done a nice job of, Tori, two of the most impactful players for Virginia Tech. We've talked about Taylor Price a little bit when she got subbed on in the first half. The other being Natalie Mitchell. From a facilitation standpoint, a goal-scoring standpoint, it's been quiet here throughout this Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, she hasn't really been able to do much, but I think that's partially because a lot of the work is on Pelkowski at the moment to shut down Taylor Huff, and then they're just kind of bypassing her play. But I would like to see Mitchell get more involved again. She's another player that's really good at holding back to pressure. She's phenomenal at getting players, getting players into the attack, including and involving them. But that's what I mean for Virginia Tech. They've got to do a better job of connecting their front runners to their midfield line.
Ball chipped ahead. Weir too far in front and a foul.
But you can see the separation from Anna Weir, where that ball gets played up, and then how far behind Sarah Rosenbaum is and how far back Natalie Mitchell is. If Virginia Tech wants to be successful, they're going to have to close those gaps faster.
Jugger Dare talked about his team impressing, and here you see it leads to a turnover.
And I know a lot of teams are often afraid to press Florida State just because their team is so quick and they read that counterattack, that transition, just their ability to go from defending to the attack happens so quickly. When you put a lot of numbers forward into your defensive press, it does leave you exposed in the back. But I think we've seen today on display that when Virginia Tech is pressuring their back line, they've caused some turnovers, whether it comes in the form of, them being able to dispossess them or just ball going out of bounds. And I think that's important to pay attention to.
And Zanton had a nice turnover for Florida State. And speaking of one, takeaway, Beckman. Florida State's so high on her ability and what she does on the back end. Huff, near side, Washington. It'll stay with the Seminoles. And a substitution as Jimenez comes off. And the freshman, Dantes, comes on to replace her. Polkowski, Weir, who's been very involved. Big ball forward for D'Amelio, who just checked in. And there's Dantes, who also just came in. A strong clearance from Todd. We haven't talked a lot about her today. The Florida State keeper is doing a really nice job in her first year, taking over for Christina Roque. Excellent keeper on the national championship squad last year. And we continue to see Virginia Tech playing big balls forward.
But I think they've had a lot of success. I mean, we've seen them in the second half. Anytime they've played a little bit more direct skip to that midfield, they're putting themselves in an opportunity for 1v1s.
Huff, the cross, nearly a beautiful finish, trying to connect with Suarez.
And that's what I'm talking about with Florida State, just the threat that they are inside of the box. You see Taylor Huff coming on the outside, and she services it beautifully, and especially when you look at the height of her service, it's perfect for somebody to one-touch volley in, and nearly happens. And I think that's where Virginia Tech...
Well, as Tech tries to find the equalizer, Taylor Price, who leads this team in goals, comes on, as well as Riley in for Suarez.
Again, I think Virginia Tech's been successful this half when they've been able to play a little bit more direct, bypass that midfield, and play into the pockets and corners. You need somebody who's strong up top, who's fast, and that can hold off the Florida defenders, get them on their back so they can get a good, clean look at the goal.
And there's 2 yellow cards issued. One, I believe, to Dantes, and then I believe our referee, Mike Stutt, just gave one to Gianna Riley, who just checked in. And indeed, Riley, who just came on, so 2 yellow cards in the same sequence. 6 yellow cards on Florida State today. 4 players and 2 on the bench.
Well, I think they've definitely responded in terms of can they handle physical play. That was one of the areas that Coach Penske wanted to make sure his team responded in. I think we've seen that. But there's a lot at stake today's match. I mean, especially when you take a look at the standings around the conference at the moment. Florida State's on the outside looking in. And so there's 3 points on the table today, and it's extremely important that one of these teams capitalizes on that.
Let's take a look at the standings because October is such an important month. Remember, the top 6 make the ACC tournament. Virginia Tech in, Florida State on the outside looking in.
Yeah, and 3 points today puts them square even with Virginia Tech. So it puts them back on the running. You'd see several teams that would be tied there. So, I mean, this is a big game in terms of what's at stake. And if Virginia Tech's able to walk away, even if they get out of here with a single point, that's one more that puts them closer to getting in that top 6.
There you see Cal, Stanford, SMU, 3 great additions to add to already such a deep conference. Crazy to think that there are likely going to be teams in the top 25 who do not qualify for the ACC tournament.
That's mind-boggling when you really think about it. And what I think is really unfair is that the ACC has so many teams in it. They've added extra teams, and they haven't expanded their conference tournament. Versus when you look at other conferences who have absorbed teams, so like the SEC, for example, they had the addition of 2 other teams, Texas and Oklahoma, and they've expanded their tournament. They take 12 teams now instead of 10. And even at that, they accept more teams than the ACC. So I think that's something that, you know, these coaches on the ACC should have a discussion about. I think there's an opportunity to have a healthy conversation about that.
Yellow card shown to Allie George. Postseason soccer, almost here.
That's so hard to believe. I mean,
Wasn't it just August?
it feels like we just started.
D'Amelio, excellent interception. We're seeing Mitchell starting to get involved, had a nice stop on the defensive end. Hokies win possession back. They want to go fast, but a substitution first. And it's de Guzman. Meanwhile, the 5th-year defender, Ron Ewai, in for Florida State. Clock will stop. Our referee, Mike Stutt. Possession with Tech. It's been a busy afternoon for our referee. And there you see 22 combined fouls. But a physical team in Virginia Tech, as we talked about earlier. And to your point, Florida State really answering in terms of physicality after coming off of a tough loss, physical match. And here's defense to offense. Riley, the junior. 1v3. EY, who just checked in. Dantes surveying. Riley, direct. De Guzman lost it, and she fouls. EY.
And EY's so quick on her feet, just the little touches. De Guzman comes in and gets more ankle than ball, leads to that foul.
This is a dangerous spot from a defensive standpoint. Florida State's so creative in the final third.
Especially because at the moment, the momentum has been swinging in Florida State's favor.
Towards the back post. Skyers. Clearance to midfield. Dantes plays it to herself. The left-footed strike is through.
An absolutely phenomenal composure by Dantes. She receives it, takes a little touch, turns and able to capitalize, just finish it, slips it underneath Hargroves. And again, it's one of the situations where she's floating open. Nobody's marking her. She's able to create just enough separation to find herself open. Look at just the composure. She receives that ball, takes it away from the defender, and then hits it off the bounce. Just goals influence the tactics of the game. They also influence the emotion of the game. And that was one thing that Coach Penske talked about in our coaches call leading up to this game, was that our team did not respond well emotionally each time Wake Forest scored. And so that was an area that he really wanted to see his team improve upon, and I think they've done it quite well today.
Dudley with a great ball almost to Riley. And this is really where you're seeing Florida State, they can hurt you in so many different ways.
Well, and I think it's a Sunday match, so the fatigue is definitely starting to weigh on both of these teams. And for Virginia Tech, it's just being able to get back defensively. Anytime they get numbers in the attack, you got Florida State that's dispossessing them, and they're on the run.
All right, for Virginia Tech, now down 2 goals. You mentioned goals change games, they change tactics. Does anything need to change here for the Hokies?
I think it's just continuing to play with confidence. I would certainly press their back line. I think you're in a situation where you have to take a little bit more risks and put yourself in a situation where you can try to win some corner kicks, and that comes from high pressing. I think that Florida State's done a really good job of beating them on those 50-50 balls in the middle of the field, so it's serving the balls long so that you're putting yourself in a position to win it up higher on the field and maybe get that corner kick.
Well, this is a Virginia Tech team from a defensive standpoint. They've held opponents to 1 goal or less in 11 of their 13 matches. So just to put into perspective how good they've been defensively and how strong Florida State is.
Well, I think it's also important to remember that this is the first time that this Virginia Tech team has faced a ranked opponent this season. So this is a big test for them. Like, how well are they able to handle the pressure? How well are they able to solve the picture on the field, the tactics?
De Guzman cuts it in, plays it in front of the box, trying to connect with Price.
And that was nice footwork by De Guzman. She's able to stand her defender up. She takes a touch to the inside on the left and able to slip that ball between 2 defenders, serving a split pass in. Just the timing inside the box is a little off, but absolutely phenomenal on her part, that service. And you can see Taylor Price just coming in. Phenomenal work rate by the both of those players. And now this is an opportunity for Virginia Tech to win the ball. So they got to be extremely organized collectively in how they go about this press right here. But I think this is an opportunity for them to try to win a corner kick and try to keep Florida State's defense pinned back.
And as Van Zanten comes on, if you're just joining us, it was scoreless at halftime. Tori, what has Florida State done to create the pressure they have from an offensive standpoint? What's been different first half to second half that's led to 2 goals?
I think they're playing simpler. They're not taking as many dribbles. The release in the midfield is quick to the wide areas, so they're able to move the Virginia Tech players out of that back line, creating some seams to play balls in and behind their defense, and they've been very effective at it. It's also their ability to transition from defense to offense that's been giving Virginia Tech a hard time.
Valente in for Mitchell. Under 20 minutes left for a Tech team that's been so strong at home this year. George. Price, really good at shielding defenders. Does so there through contact. That's too far in front for Rosenbaum, the transfer. Mike Stutt has stopped the clock.
I think there's some question over delay a game, asking her to kind of get the ball into play a little bit faster.
And there you see the pressure from Virginia Tech. Huff.
And that's good defending by Allie George. And that's what I was talking about in the first half, where Florida State was able to find that escape. The thing that is a little bit risky is Allie George is an outside back. So if she's stepping all the way into that infield to put pressure on Taylor Huff, that means that there is space in and behind if Virginia Tech gets beat.
Price serving the cross. Valente with plenty of space to Pelkowski. Price 2 weeks ago, a hat trick against Louisville. That's excellent defense from Florida State and Van Zinten. You know, we talked about Virginia Tech and the defense. The offense. Defense to offense. A couple of opportunities here in the second half.
I think they're doing a better job of putting Florida State under some pressure. They're kind of pinning back Florida State's defense, and it's creating some opportunities. I think they just need to continue to be patient, not force balls in, allow the play develop a little bit more.
George works a corner. A Hokie team that averages a little over 7.5 per game. This is just their second of the afternoon.
And this is an extremely important corner kick for this Virginia Tech Hokie team. And that is a player right there, Allie George, that they're going to look to target. And she has the competitiveness and the type of focus that you need to put a goal like this away for you.
Skyers to take the corner. It's a good one, and it's headed just off frame enough at the last second. Still dangerous. Skyers looking for a handball. Won't get it. How about Florida State defensively on a really good ball in from Skyers?
And it looked like Rosenbaum who got ahead on that. That was well timed on her part. But look at Florida State and their response. I mean, they are now in their attacking third, doing their best to answer back.
Take another look at the corner kick.
Good service whipped in, and you can see Sarah Rosenbaum getting up, but it's the clearance off the back line by Mimi Van Zinten that keeps Florida State far post defensively. If you're a defender against a corner kick, you want to have a player in the near post and the far post for moments exactly like that so that you can help with the defending inside of that. And that was stand-up play by Mimi Van Zinten.
Deflection, favorable one. De Guzman likely going to earn a corner, and she does.
And that was excellent work rate by De Guzman, just to be patient on the ball, allow some of her attack, her offense to catch up with her. And again, the Hokies have another corner kick situation. Again, this is where I think Skyers needs to take her time and make sure the service in is quality.
That is over the crossbar behind the goal.
It was a left foot in swinger, just a little bit too much there, which is really a missed opportunity for this Virginia Tech team. But now they have a chance to, again, apply the pressure to Florida State's back line. They've been successful in causing some turnovers, and Florida State's build out this second half. So if I'm Coach Chugger Adair, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm encouraging my team to press high, communicate.
Florida State a 2-0 lead. It's only the third time this year that Virginia Tech has given up multiple goals in a match. And 2 losses, one against Liberty, a 2-1 defeat, and 3-1 at Boston College. However, the line right now of 2-0 really doesn't show for the majority of this match how solid Virginia Tech has been defensively.
Well, I think it's unfortunate when the first goal comes in the way of a penalty kick, especially considering that up to that point, the play was extremely even. And as Coach Pensky said, you know, goals change the emotion of the game. And once Florida State was able to get that initial goal, it kind of opened up space and play for them to capitalize on a second attack, which resulted in a goal. And Virginia Tech, they've been battling. They just haven't been able to respond back in the same capacity.
Seminoles looking to add another dangerous moment. Skyers as well as Lewis on the defensive end, a clearance.
And that was a very important clearance from Lewis, not to give up any corner kicks. I think this late in the game, anything you can do to prevent conceding a corner kick is extremely important.
Jimenez back in for Dantes. We've seen them switch out throughout the match. And that's the 28th foul. He's trying to paint the picture of what has been a physical match, and Price unable to get a touch there. Still time for Virginia Tech, 13 minutes.
I think Virginia Tech is doing a really good job of finding the wide spaces. We've seen de Guzman get in a couple of times in that wide area. What I'd like to see is another one of their front runners, whether it's Sarah Rosenbaum or Taylor Price, somebody else come across.
De Guzman, great ball to D'Amelio, cross, Valente, and a clearance.
And the reasoning behind that is that way they have another player around them to combine off of, creating what would be a 2v1 situation inside of the box.
That's way too far for Skyers.
It looks at this point in the game that Florida State isn't interested in really high pressing Virginia Tech. So if I'm on the field, that's one of the things that I'm trying to recognize and communicate to my team, making sure that we do a better job of taking care of the ball and then being selective about when we're going forward. Because you're going to have to be extremely tactical in how you're moving those Florida State players out of position in order to create the seams and the channels to play into.
Substitutions for both sides. And important, as you mentioned, Sunday matches. Everyone a little bit more tired. Important to get fresh legs here for both sides on the pitch.
Well, our viewers at home may be thinking, oh, Virginia Tech has a home game. They had a little bit of an edge, but I would dispute that because they were on the road. They went to Miami Thursday night, played a game, and flew back Thursday night. They didn't get back into town until almost 2 a.m. Then the players had weights, they had film, so forth and so on. So the rest component from the turnaround from a Thursday to a Sunday game, it's hard. It is actually easier to play 2 games on the road than it is to have a split weekend like the Virginia Tech Hokies have faced. Whereas, even though the Seminoles are playing away, both of their games have been away. So they haven't had to combat that travel component near as much.
Weir trying to turn the corner, does so. Price is open back post, and that's headed through.
And that's just amazing, consistent pressure, relentlessness inside of the box, and Sarah Rosenbaum coming across. You can see the frustration on Addie Todd's face at the moment. But that's exactly what this Virginia Tech Hokies team needs to stay in the game. There's more than enough time to get another goal back. You can see the Florida State team is together, huddled up. But let's take another look at how this all starts. A beautiful step over, gets the left-footed cross from Weir. It's the initial header, ball bouncing around, and it's
Boston College, and all of a sudden, Soccer, such a sport of momentum. The crowd back into it, and we've got 10 minutes left to see if Florida State will respond with a win or if the Hokies can find a way to get a result against the Noles.
And again, I think the Virginia Tech Hokies have had the most success when they press
Price,
high.
Mitchell, the shot, it's through! But the flag is up. Was she offsides? A huge moment. The goal from Natalie Mitchell. But the flag was up the near side of the pitch. Was she on or offsides? And they will go and look.
What a moment. I mean, just what a change of events that we've had with this game. This has been absolutely exciting to watch.
And all that's on the line, the standings. Hokies being in a tie for third in points. Florida State being on the outside looking in. There is so much at play here. Late in the second half, you got both head coaches, as you see, around Mike Studd, our referee. The flag was up immediately. And here's our first look.
The question is Natalie Mitchell, did she advance before the ball? Here's another look as it coming in. You can see Natalie Mitchell is definitely on the inside of her player. But it's tough to tell from that angle, where was Ron EY? Like, where was she? Where was that line being held? And just the timing of the ball in the air as to when Natalie Mitchell started her run. Either way, this is a high stakes game at the moment.
And how about the fact that Florida State in such control of this match, and in about 120 seconds, we are potentially looking at a 2-2 scoreline. And what a finish, regardless, Mitchell. But, of course, the most important thing, and I know everyone knows at home, you're looking for indisputable video evidence to overturn the call on the field, which was offsides.
And the question here is, do you have enough video evidence to overrule the initial calling of the field? And to be quite frank, I mean, the video angles that are here, it's hard to really see. You don't have the right line of sight on it. I mean, from that angle, one could say potentially that Natalie Mitchell might be offsides, but unless you're even with the play and you see it evidence to overturn the goal, that's the question at the moment.
And you bring up a good point. From the angles we see, it does look like Mitchell maybe does have a slight advantage. But from the angle, to your point, you don't know where EY is in that moment as well.
You don't know where EY is. And again, linearly, you need more of that linear viewpoint. If you think about, you know, when you're watching World Cup replays, they show the player as the hologram and the one arm across the line. Where is that line? You can't tell from that video angle.
Again, this is Mike Stutt. A long look. Again, the call on the field was offsides.
I mean, and this is a critical call, keep in mind, because that goal, should it stand, put Virginia Tech even. It's now a tie match. If it's called back, Florida State is leading, which means they would get 3 points versus 1 point. And we've already seen how close it is in the ACC as far as which teams might make it into the tournament. 3 points and 1 point, that's a big difference.
And everyone on the pitch. A long wait on both sides.
This leads me to believe that maybe they don't have enough video evidence to overturn it. I just don't know how you make that decision when you don't have another angle of it. You only have the one angle.
And there is a chance they might have other angles. This has been a fairly lengthy review. And again, all that's on the line, rightfully so. If you're just joining us, Florida State led 2-0, a goal from Rosenbaum, and then within about 30 seconds, Mitchell scored, but she was ruled offsides. Here's the call from Mike Stutt. And you see the displeasure from Chugger Adair. And offsides the call. Florida State continues to lead 2-1.
I think for Virginia Tech, you just keep pressing. I mean, that's how that opportunity set up for themselves, was just continuing to put the pressure. And at this point, 10 minutes left, you got to take every risk possible.
Momentum still with Virginia Tech. Rosenbaum plays it forward for Mitchell. Mitchell looking for the equalizer through two defenders. That rolls over the end line, and a corner kick awarded.
And that was a fantastic response by the Virginia Tech Hokies just to continue to fight, getting themselves a corner kick, and here they set themselves up for another opportunity. So many games are won and lost and decided upon these very kind of moments.
Ball still dangerous, a shot deflected, and now a corner to the near side. The most offensive momentum Virginia Tech has had all match right here in the last 5 minutes.
And you can see they're putting everybody into the box. They're keeping Emma Pelkowski back as that safety valve, but otherwise they've put every player.
Weir. That's deflected and well read for a goal kick. Excellent job.
Again, I'm not keen on that decision. I think they should have just put it inside of the box versus giving up a short kick like that. They've had a lot of success in serving the ball in.
That was Ashlyn Puerta, the freshman, in a big moment there. Hokies will be pressuring, and Price with a huge challenge. Stays with Florida State, but you could hear the yelling and the screaming from the Virginia Tech bench across the way.
And the energy that Price is bringing to her defensiveness right now is contagious. It's invigorating to this Virginia Tech Hokie team. And you can see just the response by Ronnie Ewai. She looks exhausted.
Both teams trying to win possession in the midfield. Dantes, who scored the most recent goal. Skyers, well read. 8.5 minutes to play. In a series that Florida State is controlled. Hokies with an opportunity late. And there is Price, who leads this team in goals. Keeps it alive down the touchline. Cross, short, nobody there.
I like the effort that Taylor Price put towards keeping that ball in play, able to get that service off. There's a lot of players that would see it get close to that line and let it roll out.
Skyers, ball ahead. Price has a look. Tech trying to find the equalizer. Rosenbaum had a slight moment as well, but a great clearance and a foul.
And just a good look by Price there. I feel like I wish she had a little bit more confidence herself to take the shot. You can see Virginia Tech still battling.
And thought a foul had been called after the clearance. Apologies. I believe that is Mike Studd, our referee, checking on the injured Hokie. Here's another look.
You can see she just slips it across, but Sarah Rosenbaum is not quite on top of that pass. A little step over, get the ball on the outside of her foot. You're that close to goal, make something happen. Even if the goalkeeper rebounds it, bats it away, you've got numbers in the box. Cause some confusion. I've been really impressed with this Virginia Tech team throughout today's matchup. Notably, especially how they've handled themselves in the second half. They fought back. They've found a way to continue to be relevant and continue to be a threat to this Florida State team.
If you're just joining us, the Seminoles had a 2-0 lead. A Rosenbaum goal has given Virginia Tech late life in the second half. And for all the pressure that Virginia Tech's done defending today, now it's been Florida State's turn. They've answered well. Skyers a takeaway at midfield. Rosenbaum might be able to almost connect it right back to herself.
And Virginia Tech is finding moments in the wide areas when they receive the ball at their feet and they're able to just kind of flip it to the outside, play other players in that space, and then get the serves across.
Skyers, Price, Todd collects it. Well done from the sophomore keeper.
You can see Price coming in. Todd just remaining confident as she gets her hands on it.
Weir to Mitchell with space. Into the box. Mitchell. Cross for Rosenbaum. That's out of play for a Tech corner. 6 minutes to play. Can Tech find the late equalizer? Skyers plays it in. That's through! Virginia Tech has found the equalizer late in the second half against the defending national champions.
And what a goal for this Virginia Tech Hokies team. They faced adversity, having a goal scored back, but they're able to get themselves back on the board, tying this game up, and it comes with a beautiful service from Skyers. She's able to connect with Kylie Marshall. Here's another look at it. Eden Skyers serves that ball up perfectly, and you can see Kylie Marshall just fighting for that position in the air, off of her head into the back of the net, and the Hokies have made this a tied ball game. This is a huge response, huge answer, big time goal for this Hokies team.
Marshall, the sophomore from Ashburn, didn't play a lot last year, has been so steady on the back line. She's got the equalizer, and there's still plenty of time left in this second half for either team to walk away with 3 points. How does Florida State respond? A foul on the Hokies.
Again, this is a dangerous moment for the Virginia Tech Hokies team, and one that Florida State knows all too well. You can see how they're patient and making sure that their players are setting up.
Huff to Dantes, who scored earlier. That's wide of the post and a goal kick.
I think for Virginia Tech in this moment, this is where you send everybody forward. You don't try to possess in the back. You just send that ball forward. You try to go ahead and get the ball higher up on the field.
Florida State has won 21 of the 23 all-time meetings against Virginia Tech, a series that dates back to 2002. A 2013 College Cup matchup between these two. The Hokies have never won. Can they find a goal late in the second half? A foul on Weir. Florida State gets it back.
Obviously, you can tell that this is a game that's very emotionally charged at the moment. And I think for both teams, it's just a matter of keeping your composure and clock management.
The clock's going to stop here. A couple of physical challenges there in the midfield. That's the captain, Allie George.
She's such a tough player. If there's one player that's going to figure out a way to keep herself on the field, even if she's got a leg hanging loosely, it's going to be Allie George. You can see she goes in sliding. It looks like her ankle might have taken an extra hit on that.
Valente jumped over the defender. Tori, quickly, how has Virginia Tech gotten back in this match?
By high pressing against Florida State. I think Florida State has had a little trouble with that, and Virginia Tech's been taking advantage of pinning them back.
Now here's potential defense to offense, but Pelkowski with a huge
And you
challenge.
talk about players that have been extremely impactful. Pelkowski, she's one of the main reasons why this Virginia Tech team has been so relevant this second half. She's been able to break play in that sixth position, been able to distribute out of the back, play the service balls in long. To me, for this Virginia Tech team, she's one of the players of the game.
And meanwhile, for Florida State, a team that is so dynamic, one of the best in the country, 3 minutes and 43 seconds, an eternity for them.
It is, and an eternity if you're the team that has to defend against them as well. I think this is just, for both teams, it's about clock management and being smart with what you do with the ball when you have possession of it.
Pelkowski. Weir. Able to turn. Weir gets pushed down. A foul against Florida State.
And this is where I think Virginia Tech can afford to slow the ball down just a little bit. I mean, obviously you would love to walk out of here with a win, but at the same time, 3 minutes on the clock, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you could turn the ball over. So with 3 minutes left to go, send the ball up, try to get it in the corner, hold players around, do whatever you can to maintain possession and run time off that clock.
And it's Eden Skyers.
And Eden Skyers goes up, challenging that ball in the air, and you can just see the hand or elbow that goes on her head at the same exact time. Looks like she took an elbow to the cheek there. Quite a bit of a height difference there, but good to see Eden Skyers back on her feet. Again, she's one of those players that you really need in that back line to close this game out.
And coming into this week, Florida State had not lost a match in 2 years. Virginia Tech, a scoreless draw at Miami Thursday. Seminoles, the defending national champs, trying to respond. 3 minutes and 16 seconds. Will it be a draw? Or will a team find a way? Price has a look, the shot, it's through! The biggest goal of Taylor Price's career! She puts Virginia Tech in front 3-2 against the defending national champions in Blacksburg.
What a goal. What a finish. What a response, especially after stoppage in play. This Virginia Hokies team is on fire at the moment. And Taylor Price, right place, right time, sealing off her defender, able to have the confidence, the wherewithal to just seal it off in the back of the net. Just fantastic play. Look at that edge she has. Great eyesight of the goal. Fantastic composure. She puts her team up.
A 3-2 lead, but there is still plenty of time for Florida State on the road.
Especially when you keep in mind that they scored in 15 seconds, second half against Wake Forest.
Dantes, the freshman, plays it out wide.
And there's a player on the back post right now Virginia Tech needs to be mindful of. It's Carissa Beckman. That service comes across, it could be dangerous.
Skyers back in. She's on the ball against Huff. Clears that away. It'll stay with the Seminoles.
And you can see Ella Valente just kind of saying, hey guys, I got 2 players here. Who do you want me to mark?
That's crossed in. Good look for Florida State, and it's just wide. You mentioned that player, far post. That was Suarez.
Suarez was open on the back post that time. Allie George has got to do a better job of opening her shoulder and being aware of where that player is. You cannot afford to give Florida State any room inside of the 6, especially when they're trailing behind you.
Just over 90 seconds. And Mitchell putting pressure on the Florida State back line. And a throw in with exactly 1.5 minutes to play.
Again, I think for Virginia Tech, it's about clock management, taking your time, getting the ball in play, making sure you have strong players that can protect and guard it. Get that ball in the corner as much as you can and just shield it.
Florida State had a 2-0 lead with less than 20 minutes to go. Had all the momentum. Let's not forget Natalie Mitchell appeared to score an equalizer that was called back due to an offsides flag. 60 seconds to play here at Thompson Field. Does Florida State have one last good push to find an equalizer? That ball's still dangerous. Still dangerous. Valente with the left foot. Defended well. Maybe the final push for Florida State on the road. Big ball forward. Hargrove off her line. That's still dangerous. It's going to roll over the end line. Is it a corner? It is. Florida State has to hustle.
This is where Virginia Tech needs to get every player back. They need to be touch tight.
18 seconds. This will likely be the final moment of the match. The corner is in. It is headed towards the back post with 8 seconds. A foul on Florida State. The fans to their feet at Thompson Field. A long time coming. For the first time in program history, Virginia Tech has beaten Florida State. And the Hokies knock off the defending national champions 3-2 thanks to 3 second-half goals at Thompson Field.
I mean, this has just been an outstanding performance from Virginia Tech. Sure, there's certainly things about their game that they can clean up, but the amount of effort and energy and heart that this team played with this entire game, especially the second half, this is a team that's going to give people a lot of fits, especially as they continue on and they look to post-action, postseason play. But in terms of shoring themselves up in the ACC, I think they did an outstanding job. This was just a fantastic showing on Virginia Tech's part.